Green Red Monsters. He's our 7 against Donovan Schultz playing Mardu Midrange. That's our 2. Again, we have any updates for you guys on matchups, we will certainly let you know. But we do turn our attention here to Blue-White Control versus Temur Monsters. Don't think I would have expected either one of these decks in the top 8 if you asked me before the tournament started.
I guess I would have given you, I would guess it was about 50-50 that we would have had a Temur deck. I would not have guessed Blue-White.
Okay.
Robert Cardaro, a local judge here at level 1, I asked him why he wasn't judging this tournament, and he said he forgot to sign up. But things worked out pretty well for him.
Yeah, he's doing just fine.
Yeah.
Doing just fine this morning. He also just found out he gets to play first.
Oh, that's nice.
Because he grabbed the dice and he's like, let's roll. And he's like, oh.
Come on, man, you're a judge. You need to know that one.
You're the number 3 overall seed, man. You get to go first. You earned it. I'll take a look at his opening hand. You see there's a Sylvan Caryatid early this morning. Looks like there's also a Frontier Bivouac. Man, it looks pretty good. Stormbreath Dragon over there as well.
Good curve of threats, though. No copy of Stubborn Denial. But this has to be a keep for Robert. His hand looks excellent.
See Bylander's side, he's got a couple copies of Temple and Enlightenment and Hostilities over there as well.
You can see a deck that's not that robust against Stormbreath Dragon, as you see Devouring Light and Banishing Light amongst his cards.
The old blue-white decks, they had, Verdict, that's Celestial Flare, Elspeth as well. They had ways to get around the protection from white. This version has less, but they can still deal with it okay.
He still has copies of Dissolve and Disdainful Stroke.
Yep.
Those are good answers to Stormbreath.
Prognostic Sphinx, too, is good against a kind of heads up. Things get a little bit worse once the Stormbreath Dragon player gets some mana, but...
It's not a permanent solution, but if it's part of some other plan, it's not bad.
Looks like Jeremy is giving this a long look on if he wants to keep his hand or not. It's a pretty difficult hand to keep. Again, 2 Temples. You see Jason's Ingenuity. There's a Banishing Light. There's some pretty good cards over there, but, when given the matchup, it might not be the best hand, but he's going to keep it. Kadaro's going to play a Frontier Bivouac. We are underway early here this morning in our quarterfinals for Minneapolis. A Temple of Enlightenment here for Bylander. Allow him to scry. His first draw step was a Plane, so land number 3 is here. He's going to keep that card on top, pass it back over to Robert, who draws a copy of Xenagos. A Wooded Foothills Wicked Sacrifice. Kadaro's going to go down to 19. We'll see if he wants a mountain or a forest before what I presume will be a Sylvan Caryatid.
Goes and gets a mountain here in case something happens to his mana creature, because he does have double red spells in the deck.
Yeah, Stormbreath and I think Ash Cloud as well.
Yeah. Well, there's double green as well. He has Genesis Hydra and Pelucranos.
A big monsters deck. Some Hydras in here. No Nykthos, though. There's Caryatid. To Bylander we go. He kept the land on top. You see him draw an island. There's another Temple. Take a little look. Consult a hand. He's got lands 3 and 4. See the Last Breath, Banishing Light as well, Devouring Light. Plenty of removal. Oh, and Hostilities and Adjacent Ingenuity. He's going to put the top card to the bottom, pass it back over to Caldero. Lightning Strike the draw here, and he just has to pass the turn back with no additional mana.
That's a big miss there for Robert, obviously, and had a loaded hand, Xenagos, alongside all those Stormbreath Dragons.
Bylander plays his island. He'll just pass the turn back. His draw was in Hostilities. Kadaro draws a copy of Yavimaya Coast. Now he can get back to playing Magic. He will play the Coast. And we'll see if the Coast is clear for Xenagos. Bylander will consult the grip. You can see there's no counter magic there. So Xenagos through effort will resolve. Starts at 3, of course. Press the 0 button. Satyr token is going to get hit with the Last Breath.
Not a lot in Robert's deck to hit with the Last Breath at this point. There's some mana creatures, but Robert clearly has none in hand because he didn't play any of them last turn. So even though not great to use a Last Breath on a token, I don't think Robert's really going to present him with many more targets over the course of the game.
Plans to play here for Bylander. There's a Banishing Light to take care of Xenagos.
And now Jeremy with his 5th land already in hand, and with Hostilities and Jason's Ingenuity, doing pretty well for himself over there.
A Yavimaya Coast is the draw here for Kadaro. He can start casting dragons. And he's definitely giving it a long thought. And he's going to go with Stormbreath Dragon here. So there's an attack for 4. Have the option to play a Sarkhan if you wanted to.
I think that I would prefer playing a Sarkhan here. If he had another land in hand, this would be different. But because he's so exposed to end hostilities, there's no guarantee he can cast anything on the follow-up. I think I would prefer to cast Sarkhan.
And now he needs to draw a land and turn his hand back on. Thankfully for him, he did. A Wooded Foothills comes rolling off the top, so he'll put that into play. He will sacrifice that, go down to 22 in the process. Again, option between Forest and a Mountain before casting another one of these awesome 5-drops. You see the power of haste in this format.
Especially against a deck like Jeremy's that, kind of has to react on its main phase or has to leave up mana. Being able to hit immediately is awesome.
There's another Stormbreath Dragon. So it's time for another attack for 4. Bylander's going to go down to 12. And Hostility's a little 1-for-1 action there.
But these exchanges are not good for Jeremy.
Not at all.
Getting hit, having to spend his whole turn, getting hit again.
It's another Stormbreath Dragon in for 4 more. Bylander's going to go down to 8. Again, this forces Bylander to have another End Hostilities. There's a Radiant Fountain. He's going to go up to 10 now. I like it.
It's really good here.
Yeah, there's Elspeth minus that. Get that off the table. Pass the turn back. Kadar draws a card. Copy of Elvish Mystic. You see Savage Knuckleblade in the grip as well. See if he wants to cast this turn. He's going to organize his mana a little bit. Looks like he may have to take 1 off the Yavimaya Coast. Going to push him down to 21. So there is the Knuckleblade.
I think I would finish off Elspeth here.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting because you have the opportunity to deal your opponent 4, but that's probably the best it's going to get. So I would want to finish off Elspeth 2 if I'm Robert in this particular situation.
He is locked out of the game of doing anything with the Savage Knuckleblade if he doesn't take care of it right now.
Yeah. And he will go after the Sun's Champion. Follow this up with an Elvish Mystic before passing the turn back. Another good turn.
Yeah, these are all solid turns. Robert being very efficient. Was fortunate to draw, the 4th and 5th lands on time when he did, and is making the most of it.
A couple copies of Jace's Ingenuity along with a Devouring Light. Bylander just never had the opportunity to actually resolve Ingenuity.
Correct.
The pressure has never stopped.
And that's a testament to haste in this deck too. That's what's causing all of this to happen. Jeremy could have, if these threats were not haste, Jeremy could have definitely gotten the breathing space to Jace's Ingenuity, untap, and then end hostilities, but he's never had that luxury.
Polukranos the draw for Robert this turn. How about a hasty Planeswalker? In there. Elevator going up. Everybody's attacking. You see the Devouring Light. Bye-bye Sarkhan, but 5 damage going to come across. So now Bylander's down to 5 with 2 really powerful cards in his hand, but he doesn't have the opportunity to cast them. So now he needs a card like End Hostilities to roll off the top. Dig Through Time is mighty powerful.
I'm curious if Jeremy could have taken the hit down to 1 and then have Jace's Ingenuity for more shots at what he needs.
Let's see what Dig Through Time will net here. Take a look at the top 7. End Hostilities plus an untapped land. Oh, no. He's looking at 2 End Hostilities and a Tranquil Cove.
Brutal.
That is absolutely brutal that he could not find an untapped land to go with this. That is really tough, jeez. And you see he's got to put 5 of these cards to the bottom. I suppose it's not over yet, because he's going to go to 6 here. And what this does is this forces Robert to actually pump his Knuckleblade. There's no guarantee he'll do that. Though he does have that Lightning Strike in the grip.
Yeah, now he might just say, I'll attack and pass.
Yeah. You see Bylander say, yeah, you can feel free to attack. There is the attack. Bylander going to try to show some strength here. Robert says, all right, you just take 4. You go down to 2. So a little back and forth there, but the Lightning Strike gives some pretty nice security.
Yeah, at this point, if I'm in Robert's spot, I'd probably just cast the Polukranos because that warrants some sort of response and frees up the potential, the Lightning Strike. I guess the combination of cards he has to be worried about here is End Hostilities plus Dissolve.
Yeah?
In which case, maybe he's just supposed to say go and leave up his Knuckleblade plus Lightning Strike in
That's
hand.
what I like doing, is leaving up Knuckleblade. Anything goes wrong, you can just replay it, play a carry at it here. Just pass the turn back. Bylander's going to untap. If it's a top deck dissolve, things get interesting. Just to planes, though.
Well, I think Robert would still be able to negotiate through a dissolve at this point because Jeremy casts the end hostilities. He returns the Knuckleblade to hand. Robert casts the Knuckleblade. That probably eats the dissolve, and then Lightning Strike is the follow-up.
Sure. There is your Wrath effect. This is a return of the Knuckleblade. So this is coming back to the party. So the Essos will take care of the mana accelerants. Bylander still with those 2 copies of Jason's Ingenuity, hoping Robert doesn't cast a spell. But you can see he's already going reaching for mana. He's interested in casting Knuckleblade. Here that is. Will he give it haste?
It's a lot different playing against this deck when it doesn't have Sphinx's Revelation.
It really is, isn't it? It really
should go
is.
without saying, but it is noticeable. Jeremy trying to cobble this all together with Dig Through Times and Jason's Ingenuities. Not quite the same thing.
I will give Bylander some credit here. He's trying to represent strength the best that he can. But there's the attack, finally, with the Knuckleblade. And Robert Goodaro is going to win game number 1 here over Jeremy Bylander. Teamer Monsters up a game over Blue-White Control, and no stubborn denial necessary.
We've had Jeremy on camera twice now, and he's been very impressive with his play so far this weekend. Even though it's an unorthodox deck, not something really people anticipated, not surprising to see him in the top 8. He's been very solid.
Absolutely. It is trivia time. He's got the rules. I've got the first question.
So I'm just going to ask you a question. You will tweet your answer at SCG Live and hashtag SCG Premium. Of the correct responses will be selected at random for 3 months of Star City Games premium content. It's about accuracy and not speed, so do not worry about answering first, just accurately. And please keep in mind that this contest is given away at the sole discretion of StarCityGames.com, and that Twitch TV is in no way affiliated with giveaways or contests on his stream.
3 months, pretty simple question. We've got a Grand Prix coming up in New Jersey next month, November 14th through the 16th. Going to be a lot of fun. You, me, Matthias Hunt, Andrew Shrout, Nick Miller, everybody else, SCG Live. Looking forward to that tournament. The question, what is the format of Grand Prix New Jersey? If you don't know this, I don't know what to tell you.
We don't know what to tell you, although I do know what to tell you. Head over to MagicGP.com. And you can find out a lot of information and much more about this upcoming Grand Prix.
It's going to be a lot of fun. Name that format, hashtag the answer with the hashtag of SCG Premium. Make sure you're following at SCG Live, and we will announce the winner at the conclusion of our quarterfinal round. Back to the match we will go. It's time to take a look at the sideboards here. We will start with Blue-White Control, see if things do get better here for Bylander. Well, good start already because he does have a copy of Disdainful Stroke.
Disdainful Stroke is very helpful against Stormbreath Dragon and Sarkhan that caused him all sorts of headaches. It's interesting because Savage Knuckleblade got so much hype during the previous season. Hasn't amounted to as much as Siege Rhino or Manus Rider yet. But I think of all those marquee 3-color wedge rares, it's possible this is the matchup, this is the card Jeremy wants to play against the least of all of them.
I think almost for sure.
Yeah, Knuckleblade is going to cause Jeremy all sorts of headaches here. And unfortunately, Disdainful Stroke doesn't do anything about that.
You also see Resolute Archangel, 2 copies of Wingmate Rock, 4 Nyx Fleece Ram, 2 Brahmas, additional Devouring Light, an Erase of Fated Retribution, and then 2 copies of Negate. I do like Fated Retribution, but it's just really expensive.
I think Fated Retribution, I think Resolute Archangel, the Devouring Light, the Disdainful Stroke, these cards are all okay, but a lot of his anti-beatdown cards here do not do very much. Nyx Fleece Ram lines up very poorly against Flyers and Savage Knuckleblade. Wingmate Rock is also not that efficient here because of Stormbreath Dragon and Savage Knuckleblade to a lesser degree. So I like the additional sweepers, but I don't think there's going to be a ton of sideboarding beyond that.
2 Circle of Flame, 3 Disdainful Stroke, 2 Feed the Clan, 2 Magma Spray, and Unravel the Aether, Chandra Power Master, 2 Nissa World Waker, and then 2 copies of Hunt the Hunter. Gotta love the Planeswalkers.
Planeswalkers seem excellent here. I think the Unravel the Aether to fight over Banishing Light seems awesome because on Jeremy's side, that's going to be one of his better cards. If he can disenchant Banishing Lights on his Xenagos, that's a huge deal.
See both players going to finish shuffling up here and get ready to go. See if anything changes between these 2 players too much. But both players do have some pretty nice options here as far as what they can bring in, though.
I think the matchup gets better for Robert because he gets to be, you know, the edge that he has in game 1, he gets to magnify that in the post-board games because he gets to bring in Planeswalkers, which are challenging for Jeremy to answer, and additional counterspells to keep Jeremy off of things like End Hostilities, Jason's Ingenuity, Elspeth, Dig Through Time, the things Jeremy needs to resolve to ultimately take over the game.
You know, life is a lot different when, 1, you have 5 mana wrath, and 2, wrath effects that can be countered. You know, Stubborn Denial, as you mentioned at the top, I think plays a huge role in this matchup. Even though Robert never drew one that game, if he ever does draw one, it's an absolute nightmare for Bylander.
The uncounterable clause on Supreme Verdict is basically what kept Simic decks from being viable in the previous format. That was it right there. Now you're seeing the Sweeper is 5 mana, as you mentioned, and counterable, and now we have a creature plus counterspell strategy viable in Standard.
You see Robert with his sideboard bring out some lightning strikes and some other things here. Bylander looks pretty good to go, but he'll give things another look here. Again, when we do have updates for you guys on our other matches, Andrew Johnson versus Mike Reckow, Jeskai versus Abzan, Nick Poulsen versus Aaron Glick, Abzan versus Jeskai. And last but certainly not least, Derek Thill versus Donovan Schultz, Green Red Monsters versus Mardu Midrange. We will let you guys know. Pretty diverse top 8 here, no aggressive red deck, but we see our 3-color decks in action. Heck, even some 2-color decks too.
It's almost the same evolution that's gone through with Cons Limited, where everyone assumed the decks were going to be 3 colors. And then over time, people have found, no, 2-color decks, even 1-color decks, those are viable as well.
They work just fine, which is pretty cool. Now we got to work our way into 5-color decks. That's a trick.
It's a matter of time.
I hope so. Andrew Johnson, our #1 overall seed, up a game right now over Mike Reckow. Jeskai up a game over Abzan. I imagine it has to do with our good friend Mantis Rider. We've also got Nick Poulsen up a game. He's playing Abzan, up a game over Aaron Glick, playing Jeskai.
So the matchup close, but so far I've incorrectly predicted the builds that we're going to win.
You're fired.
You're going to have to find someone to replace me. Fortunately, Matthias is here,
True.
so you just plug him right in.
Little wake-up call for him.
Yep.
Matthias, go get the hat. You're in the booth.
I would imagine the hat is already ready.
But what color do you think he's wearing today?
I'm going to go with the red and gray checkered hat. He goes to that one a lot.
My favorite hat of Matthias's is the baby blue.
I like the powder blue a lot.
Yeah.
I went through a throwback jersey craze in the early 2000s back when that was cool. So I can appreciate the powder blue.
I do hope he breaks out the powder blue.
I got a Seattle Mariners jersey. Got
look at you.
Atlanta Braves jersey, Montreal Expos jersey.
I actually own some Mariners jerseys myself, even though I'm not really a big fan of the team. You got to fit in with the locals.
Exactly.
It's really important.
Well, I had this policy of anytime I was going to a Grand Prix in a city, I would buy some sort of sports jersey
Oh, okay. That's a good policy to have.
to fit in with the locals. So
I also I
have some Ohio State shirts.
Well, that's unacceptable. I have some Oregon gear, actually, and I wear it to the gym.
Is it neon green and black with duck feathers?
It is
splattered all over it.
It is neon green and yellow. There are no duck feathers, and I wear it to the gym, and man, they do not like it.
Oh no,
at all.
UW and Oregon, that's a real rivalry.
I always get some sort of just snide comment. Your workout would be easier if you were wearing that Oregon gear. Well, first of all, that's not true.
Yeah, in San Diego or Central New Jersey, no one cares about college athletics, so you can wear whatever you want.
It is a biting rivalry. Both players will take a look at their opening 7 cards here. Jeremy Bylander will be on the play as he is down a game. You can see a Dissolve and Elspeth to dig through time. Couple of lands over there. And the very expensive but very powerful Faded Retribution is his last card.
These opening hands for Jeremy, they've almost all been the same story. They're ugly, but I think he kind of has to keep them in hope that lands just sort of come to him.
Yeah, he's almost forced into it, right?
Yeah.
Now, last time he had 2 Temple of Enlightenments to kind of smooth things out. This time, no Temples at all. He's looking at a Tranquil Cove and then a couple of basics. Does have a decent amount of lands in his deck.
Wouldn't surprise me if Jeremy was supposed to play. He's only playing the 4 Temple of Enlightenments. Maybe a 5th or 6th Temple is in order.
Yeah, just the 1 color.
Yeah, just. And he's going to let that hand go.
I think he has to mulligan that one. I think it's okay to keep the previous one because you have 2 Temples and he was on the draw. But this one with the 3 lands, no Temples, no divination or anything there to tie the room together.
Takes
His
a lot
hand
of
was
discipline.
really expensive.
It takes a lot of discipline to lay that hand down. I mean, 3 lands plus a Dissolve that he can cast on the play. I don't think a lot of people in this room would send that hand back.
So he's down to 6.
And I'm not sure if I would either.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a respectable mulligan, don't get me wrong, but I would have a hard time laying that hand down.
Robert Calderon will keep his 7-card hand, so he is ready and waiting. And again, we will announce the winner of our 3-month premium giveaway at the conclusion of our quarterfinal round. Though, if you are just joining us early this morning, we do appreciate it. Cedric Phillips, Patrick Sullivan, along with Andrew Schrott and the rest of the SCG Live crew here in Minneapolis early this morning. Players filtering in for our Legacy Open already. We'll have our Modern Premier IQ going as well here on Sunday. 3 champions to be crowned.
Our Sundays are a lot of fun.
I enjoy our Sundays quite a bit.
Wake up early, get some elimination round action, go get some breakfast afterwards. I get to go bird the Modern IQ, and then Legacy.
Gotta know where your priorities are at. I respect it.
The only bad thing is when the alarm goes off.
Yeah, that's easily the worst part of the day.
Yeah. How often do you or me say I quit when the alarm goes off on Sundays?
More than I'm willing to admit. More than I'm willing to admit. Jeremy's going to keep his opening hand. He'll pass the turn back. Alarms are just,
Yeah.
ugh.
Someone needs to call Evan and or Pete. Let them know that I quit.
Here's an Elvish Mystic. Bylander going to draw a card. There's a Plains. He's got his Disdainful Stroke at the ready. He also has a Radiant Fountain, but it's a little bit awkward because it doesn't provide any fixing of mana.
Which is amplified by the dissolve in his hand.
Temple of Epiphany. Leave the top card on top. There's a Sylvan Caryatid. Pass the turn back over to Bylander. Bylander draws a negate. He'll play the Radiant Fountain, push himself up to 22. Hopefully his counterspells line up appropriately now.
I like Jeremy bringing in the negates here, even though Robert's deck is Spelllight, because the Planeswalkers are so threatening.
Yeah, I think you need them. Robert will play a Mountain. Mana looks good. Here's 5. We're going to the skies with the dragon. And there's the stroke. So that problem is solved. Back to Bylander we go. Let's see if he can draw a land for his dissolve. Dig through time.
I love Disdainful Stroke.
I think Disdainful Stroke is completely insane in this format.
It is, and powerful but situational counterspells are just awesome.
I generally like that. That's the aspect I like about it too. Is like it's very good, but you know if you play against a red deck, you just get embarrassed when you draw Disdainful Stroke. Those are the kind of counterspells that are good for Magic.
Exactly.
Flooded Strand comes off the top. That's a second blue. Could be a white too. You can see there is some tension with his mana base and hostilities. Needs that second white dissolve. Dig through time. Need that second blue. Colorall gonna play another Stormbreath Dragon and sacrifice Flooded Strand here.
And I think this has to be dissolved. Because the Scry helps you find the second white.
Yep.
All takes care of itself.
Robert does have a copy of Stubborn Denial in his hand, but he does not have a 4-power creature in play just yet. The Stormbreath Dragon is on the stack. Of course, if he can get a 4-power creature in play, Stubborn Denial is a hard counter and great in this matchup, but he hasn't been able to do so yet.
Yeah. No copies of the Teamer Mythic, which name is escaping me right now, that would help a lot in this matchup.
The Surrak Dragonclaw.
Yeah, exactly. Surrak would be sweet.
The big fella.
He is a combo with Stubborn Denial.
Yeah, he is just brood, really. Looks like he may go for a Nullify here. Yep.
Okay.
Well, use that counterspell. That'll take care of the Stormbreath Dragon. And in for 1 with the Elvish Mystic. Bylander's going to go down to 19. But Bylander's keeping his head above water right now.
And I don't think he's in a huge rush to scry right now because he doesn't need a... He needs a 5th and 6th land, so he can cast the Dissolve once he's hit land number 5 to look for land number 6.
It's a passing of the turn after an attack for 1.
The old pump fake.
Yeah. We're 1 away from being able to cast Dig Through Time, and there's that 1 in Temple of Enlightenment. Tickle the top card very quickly goes to the bottom for Bylander. He's still got Dissolve and Negate at the ready. Elspeth too. And for what looked to be maybe an easier game for Robert, his hand has not come together very well at all this game. There's a Forest. Here's another attack for 1. Bylander's going to go down to 17.
Well, it's not like they're all lands. He has a Stubborn Denial and no corresponding 4-power creature. He has a Creator's Claws, and Jeremy's far away from getting killed by it. He has an Unravel the Aether. Jeremy hasn't presented an enchantment yet. So,
Reactive.
yeah, it's a little reactive, and Jeremy's able to make his land drops and keep his life total high as a result.
See, Evolving Wild's going to come into play. Mountain the draw here for Robert. He's going to put that into play. Another attack for 1 is going to put Bylander down to 16. But no haymakers this game, really. The Stormbreath Dragons were taken care of. Bylander's going to sacrifice his Evolving Wilds here. See if he wants a Plains or an Island as he consults the grip. He'll go with another source of blue mana.
Evolving Wilds is a card that people have forgotten about to some degree, but in decks with Dig Through Time or Treasure Cruise, I think it should be considered alongside the fetch lands.
Pretty good spot. Not the most powerful card, but it does serve a purpose.
Keep in mind, there's also so many people playing Urborg that often you can play it and tap it for mana right away, which is the biggest liability.
This is true. Bylander is going to cast this and delve some cards, but he tapped out so it can actually get hit by Stubborn Denial.
That was a misstep by Jeremy. I think that you just remove one more card and get that to resolve.
Now, what actually kind of makes this interesting, though, is, he gets hit by Stubborn Denial there, but now he can cast Elspeth if he doesn't believe that Bylander, that Caldero has another Stubborn Denial.
But there's no rush to cast the Elspeth given what the board looks like. If he had to cast it to stabilize, I would agree. Use it as a test spell to get the Stubborn Denial out, but that's not the position Jeremy was in last turn.
Yeah. Now he's just going to pass the turn back, a little bit afraid to cast the Elspeth. Does not want to get hit by the Stubborn Denial. That would force spike it. The draw for Robert this turn was a copy of Nissa Worldwaker. But as we have seen from Jeremy's hand, this thing is not resolving. This is way too powerful a threat to let resolve. And he's got plenty of counter magic.
Jeremy's hand is all permission.
Yeah. There's negate. I'll take care of that.
Keep on trucking in.
Down to 15 goes Bylander. We'll head back to Jeremy's turn here. Again, Robert with 2 cards left in hand on Rev the Aether and Crater's Claw. Quick update for you guys on our 2 versus 7. Derek Thill with Green Red Monsters currently up a game over Donovan Schultz playing Mardu mid-range. As we do head back Robert's way. Another copy of the Fireball. Another attack for 1, getting him in range.
You joke, but he is now in range of 2 Crater's Claws.
Yeah. There's a dig through time. That's good to go. So we'll take a look at 7 cards. Dissolve among them. Banishing Light 2. You see the hand here for Bylander and Hostilities. Got that Elspeth, got a Devouring Light. And that Dissolve.
It's a weird spot for Jeremy because these 7 cards are loaded, what he's looking at right now. But he also sort of wants lands too. So I'm interested to see, does he just take more powerful spells and hope to draw lands down the line, or does he hedge a little bit by taking 1 land here alongside a spell?
Of the cards that Jeremy's looking at, if I'm in his spot, I really want that additional Dissolve. And I don't know what the other card I would want is. He's looking at a Banishing Light. There's a Jace's Ingenuity. You see the Island too. Definitely some nice options.
It's hard to give up one of these spells here in lieu of taking the Island, but I think Jeremy might want the mana most of all.
Yeah. But as you mentioned, the thought process could be, well, I'll just draw some islands eventually, and I'll be okay.
Yeah, but if he misses, then it
gets ugly.
I take another point of damage, and I'm winning again next turn. And against a deck that has as much haste and Crater's Claws as Roberts does, that's a dangerous road to go down, even though Jeremy's life total for the time being is relatively high.
Jeremy looks to have taken an island, which he played, and a Jace's Ingenuity. His draw for the turn was a copy of Disdainful Stroke. Got our first winner here onto the semifinals. That is Nick Paulson, number 5 overall seed, with Obzon midrange, takes down Aaron Glick playing Jeskai Aggro. So we've got at least 1 Obz on deck and Siege Rhinos into our semifinals. Jace's Ingenuity here. Not sure if Robert has a counterspell here or not.
He picked up a Disdainful Stroke, but I think he's trying to set up Kratos' Claws plus Disdainful Stroke.
A little bit
Maybe
of
his
protection.
plan. Or fight over Elspeth. Jeremy's seen so many cards at this point that's, Jace's Ingenuity is sort of, yeah, okay, I guess the ship has sailed. The horse has left the barn on keeping Jeremy off of cards, so you have to start fighting over specific cards that matter.
Bylander has done a really nice job of digging himself out of this hole to the point where he almost has a discard now. There's Elspeth.
Now this, I believe, is worth a Disdainful Stroke.
Yeah, and Jeremy already knows, okay, that's going to get countered. Back to Robert we go. Take a draw here. Looks like it may have been a Genesis Hydra. And that could be a really bad, this is the worst feeling in the world. The opponent does the mana count. Well then, it's either Fireball or Genesis Hydra.
Yeah. And the Genesis Hydra triggers even if it gets countered, so it's might as well dump all your mana into it. Yes, it gets hit by Disdainful Stroke, but hopefully the card that you get is something like Sarkhan or Stormbreath Dragon. Get a little something going.
Caldor just trying to figure out how much mana he wants to dump into the Hydra, I think. Though he might be considering a Crater's Claws. Looks like that was the card he pulled forward to his hand. We'll see, though. Yeah, he's going to go with the Fireball. A little surprised to see that instead of the Genesis Hydra this turn. That's going to get countered. This will just be an attack for 1.
Yeah, I would consider the Crater's Claws the card you want Well, when Jeremy's run out of counter spells.
Yeah.
Because the problem is playing towards Genesis Hydra means that if Jeremy has end hostilities, everything gets swept up.
Yep.
So I'd rather have the counterspell take care of the big thing and leave the fireball in my hand to line up against hopefully a hand without counterspells.
Prognostic Sphinx has shown up to the party. So the 3/5 flyer that we don't see a ton of in standard just yet is here. The Wooded Foothill is going to come in here for Robert.
Noah's in Flux, top 8 deck.
Yep. Couple copies there. Love the artwork for this thing.
It's pretty funny.
Looks like it has some really big teeth.
Yep. A beard.
Just kind of hanging out. 5 toughness, the key here.
Like a high May Sphinx hanging out on the top of the mountain. Long hair.
Don't care.
Contemplating who knows what. Life's great mysteries.
So we'll see if it's time for Genesis Hydra this turn. Perhaps maybe another Crater's Claws will try to go upstairs. A lot of mana being tapped. There's a Hydra this time. He's going to dump a ton of mana into this thing, so we're going to turn over a whole lot of cards.
Going out of his way to represent Stubborn Denial, it looks like.
Yeah. Let's go see, taking a look at 8 here. 6, 7, and 8. So what does the wheel reveal? Yuck. Not the best I've ever seen. Ashcloud Phoenix and Knuckleblade, probably the best of the bunch.
Ashcloud Phoenix is not bad to take here. I mean, he has enough mana to be chump blocking a Prognostic Sphinx and unmorphing. Also gives him some durability against a possible end hostilities.
Looks like it's going to be the Phoenix.
Makes sense.
And the rest of these cards will get shuffled back in the deck here in just a moment. So the 4/1 flyer in the house. Again, as you mentioned, some protection against end hostilities, as if it does die. Comes back to the battlefield face down. Morph cost is expensive, but plenty of mana out there for Calderel, given this game has gone quite a while.
It's a game plan now. This requires some sort of response, and it cannot be Banishing Light because we know Robert has Unravel the Aether in his hand.
That's
he's had
true.
for the whole game.
You should mention going out of his way to represent Stubborn Denial.
Yeah. He could have just left up the Caryatid, right? But he wants to say, I need blue mana.
Yeah, he could have done that. He could have left up the Bivouac. You know, he went with the Shivan Reef.
Exactly.
A lot of different ways he could have done it. But you can tell that he's trying to represent it. Now, one thing Bylander is considering right now is the Genesis Hydra actually hasn't resolved yet. Before Genesis Hydra resolves, you actually spin the wheel and get the card in play. And so now the 8/8 is actually on the stack. And we'll see what happens with it.
And now he has to determine whether or not he just has to end hostilities this board anyway, or if he can fight through it if the Genesis Hydra is not in play.
Because I imagine he doesn't want to end hostilities away his Prognostic Sphinx.
Yes.
That's the issue here. So he's going to dissolve the Genesis Hydra. We'll take a look at the top card for the Scry, and he will leave that on top. So back to Bylander we go. Take a look at the top card. What does he happen to leave up there? A copy of Banishing Light. And this is kind of the situation that you mentioned.
This does play into Robert's hand a little bit.
Little Scry action. You see it on hostilities. Looks like that's going to go to the bottom. 2 cards going to very quickly be pushed to the bottom. 1 card going to stay on top. Sphinx will put Calderel down to 16.
But Jeremy is sort of getting into shields down territory. He has no counter spells left in hand. He has 2 copies of end hostilities that he's loath to play right now because he's trying to win with Prognostic Sphinx. He's got 2 copies of Devouring Light, which don't necessarily line up with every threat that Robert can draw, most notably Stormbreath Dragon. So as commanding as this game has been for Jeremy so far, it is tenuous. It could slip away.
All it takes is 1 Stormbreath off the top. This game changes in a big way. Mike Reckow did tie things up in his match against Andrew Johnson, so Jeskai and Absalom will be going to a 3rd game there.
And even setting aside Stormbreath Dragon, Jeremy's at risk of just dying to the Crater's Claws in hand.
It's very realistic. Claws right now would be for 10. There's an attack for 1.
And I think Jeremy needed to use Devouring Light in this spot. With no counter spells in hand, he needs to be mindful of Creator's Claws.
Sure. Draw was a disdainful stroke, so that's what he kept on top.
If that's the plan, then makes a little bit more sense there for him to take the Elvish Mystic hit, though. With 2 end hostilities and a second Devouring Light in hand, I still don't know if I would want to take this chip shot.
Sphinx going to come across for 3 more. You saw Elspeth and Negate. Looks like those are the cards you're going to see on top. The Tranquil Cove going to go to the bottom. Unravel the Aether. Going to go after that Banishing Light, but not a big deal. Though, I will note that it does actually shuffle the deck, so it messes up the scry.
Yep.
So that part might be the most influential of the card. Because Bylander does have ways to get the Ashcloth Phoenix off the table. It's 2 copies of Devouring Light. So, you know, the 4/1 flyer is not the end of the world, but the fact that the deck is shuffled now, and Bylander will be drawing a mystery card instead of Elspeth or Negate, makes things a little bit different.
Which means that maybe Robert was supposed to use that card on Jeremy's upkeep instead of waiting till the end of the turn.
Potentially.
I don't know. Maybe he's worried about another Banishing Light.
There's the big mana count. Yavimaya Coast's going to come in. Will Calderal actually attack with this Ashcloth Phoenix? We know it's not going to do much.
I suppose he could wait for Stubborn Denial and try to do everything in 1 turn, but...
You know, there's also this world, I suppose, that exists where you just get to block. I guess that's not all that great, though. Devouring Light makes things a little bit interesting in this situation.
Exactly. If that's the card he's worried about right now, then he can't really do that either.
Yeah. Now, this is a lethal attempt here to Kratos Claws in just a moment, too. Of course, Devouring Light, you think of it with just exile targeting attacking creature. It can also kill a blocker. Now, here's Disdainful Stroke on the Kratos Claws, so that's going to go away. It was an attempt at a game-winning Fireball. Now, here comes the Phoenix. There's Devouring Light, so that's going to exile that. So Bylander's still okay, even though it'll take 1.
And another Kratos Claws is still lethal.
Let's see what the draw is. A Plains. In with the Sphinx. It's 10-10 now. Little Scry 3. Nullify 2 lands. I think they might be all headed to the bottom here in just a moment.
I think so. Jeremy's got to be worried about trying to shut the door on Kratos Claws as much as he can.
And Hostilities, Devouring Light, all hanging out over there. One thing to note, if Calderal does draw a copy of Stormbreath Dragon, he has enough mana to play and Monstrous it in the same turn. So much mana out there. Gonna play a Frontier Bivouac, pass the turn back. Bylander will draw a card. Nullify. And I'll take care of the Stormbreath Dragon now.
I think we're down to just Kratos Claws at this point. Robert with 1 copy left in his deck.
Spin the wheel on the Sphinx. That'll put 3 cards to the bottom. Calderal down to 7. See what the draw is here. Copy of Wooded Foothills. Time to attack for 1. Bylander's down to 8.
This Elvish Mystic has done quite a bit of damage.
Yeah, way more than I expected. Sphinx will be attacking in just a moment. Hiya. Little Scry. Negate and Dissolve along with Fated Retribution. Counterspells are going on top. Retribution to the bottom. Calderal down to 4.
Now Jeremy just needs to dodge 1 draw step out of Robert.
The Cove will bring him up to 9, but 9 isn't a relevant life total. He's got to dodge a Kratos Claws. Robert draws, and it's a Frontier Bivouac, I believe. Not Savage Knuckleblade. All the same, it's getting countered. It's not a Fireball. There's an attack for 1. Bylander back down to 8. And now, a very comfortable man.
Finally, the Dissolve.
Yep.
Seals the deal.
And there's another Dissolve going to the top. We'll be heading to a 3rd game here in just a moment, folks, as that Dissolve will wrap things up. No card that Calderal can draw here. He will play Polukranos, but that wouldn't matter all that much anyway. Though Bylander does have to think about this just a little bit briefly. About, okay, what's the last card in your hand that you have not cast yet? Could you Fireball me? Is this a test spell? So you see him giving this some thought. And can you actually fight my Prognostic Sphinx? So we'll see. There's a wooded foot. So he actually just let this resolve. Yep, and that's going to do it. So that's game number 2 underway as both players do shake and get ready for the third game here between Blue White Control and Teamer Monsters.
Yeah, Robert just trying to test to see what Jeremy would do there.
Yep. So we'll see if either player is going to go back to the well here as far as sideboarding is concerned.
Well, if I'm in Robert's seat, I've cut the lightning strikes. They don't do very much here. And I think some of the mana creatures as well. I don't think he needs all the mana creatures.
He's got a lot of them after sideboard. Caryatids, I think he's got some number of Rattleclaws too. He's got 2 of those.
I don't mind the mana creatures that can attack.
Oh, of course not.
But Caryatid is, you know, it's a dead draw in these long games, and it's something that gets swept away by hostility. So, not a big fan of it here.
So Robert's going to go back to the board. Jeremy already shuffling up. Game 3 will be underway here in just a moment. But for the moment, we will talk about the rest of the 2014 Open Series schedule here, where we are in Minneapolis right now. Got a handful of shows left. We head to Oakland next weekend to the Bay Area, your favorite spot.
Halloween, we'll be flying in. Some activities will be going on Friday
Yeah,
night.
probably just go to sleep.
Probably just go to bed.
Yeah, nothing too crazy going to happen on Friday, October 31st. Absolutely not.
It'll be a lot of fun.
Probably, yeah. After that, we will head to Columbus. A lot of fun there. No Blue Jackets game this go-around, though.
Unfortunately, it was really fun last time, but Columbus, a very good convention city.
Grand Prix, New Jersey. You'll visit the parental units of the family.
And my new nephew,
Okay, should be
Jason,
fun.
who was born on Columbus Day.
Traditional spelling of Jason?
Yes.
No Y thrown in there for funsies?
Not in my family, no.
That's good. The Open Series in Richmond, taking place on my dad's birthday, November 22nd. Open Series in Atlanta, one of our favorite places to go. All the Chick-fil-A that we can handle.
Yeah, that's very little for me, but
And
sure.
we will go to Portland after that. You'll be commentating with Thiason. I will be doing battle.
Pretty exciting.
I cannot
I
wait.
think this is the second open weekend you've played in this year.
Second or third. I think I've played in 2 Seattle and then this one in Portland.
Okay.
So don't get to play a lot, but I'll be doing battle that weekend. And then no battling for the Open Series Invitational in Seattle. That should be a lot of fun with Patrick Chapin. And then we'll finish it off with our premier tournament of the year, December 20th and 21st, right before Christmas in Roanoke.
Those last 3 tournaments are going to be a lot of fun to cover. I think we're going to have a lot of people in the house for Portland to try to get Open Series points. The Invitational in Seattle, there'll be a ton of drama, and then the Players' Championship, which will be great.
I'm there to dream crush in Portland.
Good.
You want Open Series points, you got to get through me.
You got to pry them out of my cold, dead hands.
Which probably isn't too tough at this point.
Right, but you know,
Little washed up,
they
but-
still have to try.
Yeah. I'm not conceding to anybody. Seven cards for these players. Again, Robert Calderall will be on the play. You see an Elvish Mystic already. Temple of Epiphany 2.
It's another one of these hands that Jeremy draws up that's just missing pieces.
It
And-
looks like he's got a lot of lands this time.
5 lands, Devouring Light, Disdainful Stroke. This is a hand that a lot of things can go wrong.
It could get ugly.
But he does have resistance against acceleration into big creatures.
Yeah.
Both of the spells in hand are among his better cards when he's on the draw.
Temple of Epiphany to start. What this might mean for Calderall is he may not have green mana in his hand.
No, it looks like his hand is Temple of Epiphany and a Shivan Reef.
So he's hoping that maybe the Scry can get him out of this, and he's giving this a long thought. That card's going to go to the bottom. Over to Bylander, we're going to go. Jeremy draws a copy of Jason Ingenuity. He'll play a Temple of Enlightenment to start things off here for game number 3. Pass it back over to Calderall. Savage Knuckleblade. There's a Shivan Reef. And if you're Bylander, you're probably pretty happy right now not to see green mana to start.
With Dissolve in hand, I mean, this could be the whole game right here.
Uh-huh. No third land, no green source. There's the third land there for Bylander. Calderall draws a copy of Mana Confluence. We're back to playing Magic again. Now, how to lead things off is the question. You see a copy of Savage Knuckleblade here already.
I like playing the Knuckleblade against Jeremy's deck because it can't be stroked.
And this is an Elvish Mystic. We have an update for you guys. The number 1 overall seed, Andrew Johnson, moving on with Jeskai Aggro. So in our semifinals on one side of the bracket, we'll have Andrew Johnson playing Jeskai Aggro against Nick Paulson playing Abzan mid-range. We'll figure out what's going to be on the other side here shortly as these two players do battle.
So this is a very interesting dynamic because both players trying to be very, very cautious about playing into disdainful stroke. It's one of the few counters that doesn't allow a counter war to break out.
Yeah.
So the gameplay with it is very odd.
3 mana here. Looks like he might be in Savage Knuckleblade territory. Robert trying to figure out exactly what he wants to play and sequence his spells. He's going to take one from the Mana Confluence, and there is Nux. It looks like Bylander may let that resolve. That could be a little risky.
I think so too.
And he says, actually, I'm going to dissolve that.
I think with a deck that has Disdainful Stroke and Stubborn Denial, you have to fight pretty aggressively over the 4 power creatures.
I think Denial is the big one there.
Yeah.
Perhaps it's time for an attack for 1. You can tell that Robert doesn't want to attack for 1 because he wants to leave it Disdainful Stroke, but I actually like attacking here because I don't want to just give away the information that I have Disdainful Stroke.
Exactly. And these little points of damage matter a lot when you have Creator's Claws in your deck.
The draw for the turn was a Nullify. Flooded Strand going to be the land fair for Bylander before just passing the turn back. Yawgmoth's comes rolling off the top here for Calderel. He will play that. Mana not a problem anymore. It wasn't the early turns of the game.
And even if, you were worried about Jeremy untapping and casting something, by leaving up 1 blue, Jeremy will likely respect Stubborn Denial. So you don't even have to worry about him untapping and just play a land into Jace's Ingenuity or whatever you're afraid of. The big risk, I guess, is Prognostic Sphinx.
A bunch of mana. Bluegrass, a World Eater. I would be surprised if this resolved.
Well, this might be a spot where Jeremy says, okay, that's fine. I have a Banishing Light in the hand. I'll let this resolve so I can try to land Jace's Ingenuity.
The table numbers, they're green.
It would be a pretty good spot to do so, actually.
This Jace's Ingenuity is clogging up Jeremy's hand a little bit. He doesn't really need it to win the game, in my opinion, but Robert will likely value it enough that he'll spend a counterspell on it, which is a win-win for Jeremy.
Bylander going to give this a lot of thought. Definitely worth thinking about. How much do I care about Pelucranos? Because he has answers in his hand, as you mentioned. He's got Banishing Light. He also has Devouring Light, too.
Yeah.
So do I really care about this threat? Maybe, because it does turn on Stubborn Denial.
But he has multiple answers in hand to Pelucranos.
Looks like he's considering Disdainful Stroke, but he's also considering Nullify. He's really just considering everything at this point. Got a lot of options in his hand.
The Jace's Ingenuity is what complicates this hand. Does Jeremy just want to set that aside and say, I'm not even worrying about this for the time being? Or is he willing to commit a development turn to fire off the Jace's Ingenuity to make every other turn smoother for the rest of the game?
He's going to go with Nullify. After a lot of thought, going to use the counterspell. We think there might be an attack for 1, and there is. And back to Bylander we're going to go. Jeremy will draw a card. It's a copy of Fated Retribution. And he'll just pass the turn back. Calderel will draw. And it's a copy of Stubborn Denial. There's the wrinkle.
Yep.
Looks like Ash Cloud Phoenix may be placed in the stack here in just a moment. There that is. But I have to imagine Bylander doesn't want that sort of thing to resolve.
And these spells, just one by one deploying these threats is a little annoying for Jeremy because he would like to get the Jace's Ingenuity off, make some land drops here and be able to cast 2 spells in 1 turn.
Yeah. And he will let the Phoenix resolve. There's an attack for 1. Bylander's going to get on a 17. He's going to sacrifice this Flooded Strand. Looks like he's going to attempt to resolve Jace's Ingenuity. And we'll see if that'll be successful or not.
Given the way that Jeremy's played this game, even though if I'm in Robert's seat, I feel like Jeremy has Elspeth in hand and that's what he's playing towards if he's casting Jace's Ingenuity this turn, even though that's not the case. So it wouldn't surprise me to see Robert let the Jace's Ingenuity resolve out of respect for Elspeth the following turn. Although I suppose Elspeth isn't even that threatening in this spot because you have the Phoenix available.
Yeah, it's not even that great.
So maybe Robert does pick a fight over this.
See Ingenuity being placed on the stack. 5 cards in Bylander's hand. Calderel wondering, okay, how many cards do you have? You have 5? You're going to go to 8, 9 with your draw step? I have Stubborn Denial. Do I want to counter this? decisions here for the Team of Monsters player. And he's going to let that go. So hit 1, 2, and 3.
Robert deciding that he wants to pick the fight over a sweeper or big planeswalker or something.
He's got Elspeth now.
Yep.
You also saw him pick up a copy of Dig Through Time and Tranquil Cove. Draw Step is a Dig Through Time as well.
Please raise your hand if there's nobody sitting across from you. Help the last few people
The
find
Cove
their
will come into
seats.
play. Bylander will go up to 17.
Could please keep your hand raised until your opponent shows up, or the player shows up, or one of our staff members checks in with you.
3 mana. There's a Banishing Light. That's a clean answer to the Phoenix.
And maybe Robert decides to pick a fight here. There's not.
Gonna let that go too.
Guys, my name is Sean Heath.
Well, draws a card. Now this is a pretty good Magic card.
I'd like to thank you guys for coming.
Nissa World Waker was the draw for the turn.
Minneapolis.
And the Stubborn Denial does push it through. Force Spike good enough here.
Before I hand you over to your head judge today.
Looks like he may be unraveling the Aether here.
One,
Yeah.
on your deck list right now, on the back of it, you should have a waiver form.
So the Phoenix is back now.
Please make sure that is signed for me. If you do not have a waiver
It looks like
form,
2 Stubborn Denials in hand.
Yeah, and he at least has 1, and I believe a Disdainful Stroke.
the next thing, I'd like to remind
Jeremy
you
would be in a
our
little bit of
policy.
trouble for as slow as Robert's draw has been here and missing some land drops. These counter spells are a huge hassle for Jeremy's deck.
Yeah, this is the difficulty.
Buy and sell cards.
The concern of counterspells is a huge problem.
In the back, they will be happy to help you guys out.
Bylander gonna draw. Evolving Wilds. Well, that's a land. It's just a little bit slow.
Little slow.
Wipe it on the floor. On the floor, guys. We don't want any tables today. I don't want you guys to
See his
ask me
Devouring
anything
Light there.
through rhymes.
And I think that Robert is just not going to fight over card drawing whatsoever and just fight over the couple big spells that Jeremy has in his deck that he needs to concern himself with. So even something like Dig Through Time, if Jeremy goes for it either on his own turn or at the end of Robert's, I think Robert might just say that's fine.
That is very hot. All right, guys.
See Bylander giving this turn a lot of thought. He's just gonna pass the turn back.
So, as Sean said,
Back to Calderal we go.
the,
Force the draw.
Minneapolis Legacy Open.
See the Creator's Clause
Games.
there.
My name is Patrick Cool. We have right in the range of 240 players this morning, which means we will be playing a wonderful 9 rounds of
Looks like our Legacy Open.
with a
We've got about 240 players, so 9 rounds of action.
When we cut to top 8, we will be using the modified play draw rule, so be aware of that as you're going through. In addition, we are playing a competitive rules enforcement level today.
Now, the way that Robert's playing this game, he's just not even interested in committing the Phoenix
If any of you have any
to an attack. Oh, okay, he's actually
Looks like, yeah, it looks like,
okay.
looks probably where I'm missing out.
Sure,
Yeah.
okay. I was about to say, this is a really conservative attack.
There's a stroke.
All right, good. You guys.
He wins that counter battle.
When you do that, please make sure to raise your hand, call for a judge, and keep your
And
hand.
now I do like attacking here. Because now here's the Devouring Light, and we're going to fight over this.
Wonderful staff here today. They're
There is the Stubborn Denial, so absolutely not.
walking around right now. They will be
The 4 damage gets to come across.
that you have today.
Again, Creator's Clause and Disdainful Stroke. Last 2 cards for Calderon.
Take your deck lists, look at them.
Evolving Wilds.
And this is a huge cost of Evolving Wilds right now, as Jeremy is unable to cast Dig Through Time at the end of the turn. Any other land in his deck will let him just do this, have a much better turn.
This is sometimes why you see a card, you know, like just another, this could be a Pluto Delta, for example.
Yeah.
But Pluto Delta isn't really mana fixing. It's just another card that helps dig through time. So there's a cost each way. Bylander gonna untap. It's time for a draw. And that's a copy dissolve. Not so bad. But what's causing the problems right now is the Phoenix.
And the risk of Robert finding more counter spells.
Yeah. The counterspells play a huge role against these control decks. There's dig through time. That one's going to be on the cheap. So away go cards in the graveyard. Time to look at the top 7.
For a couple players, if you're in the room, please.
Devouring Light among them. There's a Banishing Light. I think that's what he was looking for.
15, Jeremy Bylander.
Devouring Light plus Banishing Light gives him a lot of play against the Phoenix. But the concern here is just the total amount of mana that Jeremy has. It makes it hard for him to deploy all his defenses while leaving up dissolve mana, which is ideally what he would like to build towards.
Yep.
Sorry. You're right there, I see.
Boy, dig through time is powerful. Jeez.
Oh, yeah.
It's the selection, 2 mana, get 2 cards. It's one heck of a card. You don't have to work too hard for it either.
2 costs, look at the top 7, take 1 would be an unacceptable card, power level wise, and dig through time is often
All right,
that,
judges,
but you get 2 of
you
them.
guys can start distributing the tokens.
So 2 cards added. There's a
You guys
land.
already done that? Sweet, you're way ahead of me.
Looks like he took Devouring Light. And then pass the turn back. Calderon's going to untap. He'll draw. Looks like it's a copy of Wooded Foothills. Not great. There's the land. Here is, we believe, at least an attack with both. Okay. Devouring Light says, get that thing out of here. Looks like Bylander's going to take 1, down to 11. He's done a nice job of controlling this game.
Yep, a lot of resources left in hand. And with Dissolve in hand, maybe locking Robert out of advancing his board much further.
Yeah, he's been very patient all the way through. He's got a lot of counter spells in his hand. Faded Retribution is kind of, an emergency button
Yes.
in case something goes too wrong.
And he's in a spot now where he can pass, counter things if they come up and they're threatening, dig through time if Robert does nothing of note, get to a point where he can start playing Elspeth or Prognosis Sphinx with Dissolve mana backup. And with the leftover resources in hand, that should be enough to win this game.
I will say I've been relatively impressed with the White Splash.
Yep.
I was a little bit dubious to start, given that the Pantheon, Owen Turtwald, Andrew Cuneo played blue-black control. Win percentage of the deck was relatively high at the Pro Tour. But this White Splash has been pretty impressive.
Devouring Light has caused all sorts of issues for Robert because
Looks pretty good.
can't counter it with Disdainful Stroke and fights over the Phoenix, which is one of his best cards in the matchup.
Looks like Sarkin may have been the draw here for Calderon. Gonna organize some mana here. 5 mana. There is Sarkin the Dragon Speaker. Bylander gonna give this some thought. How much do I care about this? Is this posturing at all? With so much counter magic in his hand.
He's going to use something on this. There's no way he's taking 4 points of damage for no real reason.
There's also just the possibility, right, where you can just say, okay, you're gonna activate that in response to Faded Retribution.
Yep.
Kill your stuff. Is that the best use of Faded Retribution? Maybe yes, maybe no. You're just gonna go simply with the Disdainful Stroke. Not get too creative here.
Players, please be patient. We're working on getting our pairings for your first roundup.
Faded Retribution seems like a more powerful safety valve than just getting a Sarkin off the table. And if I'm Jeremy, I just want to cast the Dig Through Time in hand so badly that that's the #1 concern.
4 cards in the graveyard here. We have Donovan Schultz and Derek Thill going to game number 3. So those guys are battling it out, that's for sure. Green Red Monsters against Mardu Midrange.
Has Elvish Mystic in this match done more damage than every other card in Robert's deck combined?
Possibly. Stormbright Dragon did a lot of work in game 1.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you what, Elvish Mystic has been given the beats. Here's Dig Through Time. This is the Disdainful Stroke that Bylander did not know about. Calderon's had that for some time.
Had Robertson playing the game like he didn't have Disdainful Stroke in a couple spots. So
The draws and end hostilities.
I'm sure Jeremy would have liked for that to resolve, but not the end of the world that it didn't.
What that isn't is it's not land number 9, so the Bylander could do the old Elspeth plus Dissolve play. We're not there yet, but I imagine that's what he's trying to set up. I suppose there is a world that does exist where Jeremy just says, well, I'll just play Elspeth because I don't think there's anything you can do to kill me. And we
No,
are in that world.
But it could line up potentially back-to-back draws or draws over several turns that lead to a demise, but I think it's safe enough here for Jeremy to go ahead and just cast Elspeth and try to win that way.
Time for some soldier tokens. As the Elspeth elevator does go up.
Pairings for your first round are going up right now.
That's probably it for this turn. So now we'll see if Calderon can actually beat these Elspeth tokens.
This is one shot because Jeremy's hand is multiple dissolves, so it's now or never.
What's the draw? Well, that's not a bad start. Copy of Genesis Hydra.
It's not shabby.
That's that sinking feeling. They count that
counts
mana.
again.
Yes. 8 mana is what he's got. He Hydra for 6. Take a look at 6 cards if he wants to go that route.
And this is why all these little decisions matter. Jeremy could have dissolved that Sarkhan numerous turns ago. The way that his mana's worked out, he could have had Disdainful Stroke left over in hand and been able to fight over whatever large draw Robert generated this turn. Instead, Jeremy has to cross his fingers and hope nothing too bad happens.
Yeah.
Not to say that what he used was a mistake, just that all these decisions matter.
Calderon's got 2 X spells in hand. We're going to see which one he wants to cast. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 mana right now. 1 left over. It does have the option here of Crater's Clawing the Elspeth. But he's going to go with the Hydra.
I don't think he can win this game by Crater Clawing and Elspeth.
I don't think so either. This will be for 5. Rattleclaw, Storm Breath. Almost certainly Storm Breath, yep.
Now, he may be able to win this game by attacking Jeremy, and maybe he draws Stubborn Denial or Disdainful Stroke or something, and he finds some way to sneak this Crater Claw through.
And I think now we say, all right, dome you for 4, put you to 6. You're in fireball range. Maybe something comes together for me.
I think this is a mistake. It looks like Robert's going after the Elspeth, and I think he needs to try to close Jeremy out.
Yeah, I don't like going after Elspeth here at all. I dislike that heavily. And the main reason I dislike that is because we've played a very long game, and you have not played non-hostilities yet.
Yep.
And you've cast 2 dig through times and other card drawing. So the chance of you having hostilities is very high. That's going to clear away the board. My Elspeth goes up to 2, and it's almost like your Summer Dragon didn't accomplish anything. Gotta know when to ignore those Planeswalkers. Here's a Temple of Epiphany. Elvish Mystic gonna go to the bottom.
So many good players, they emphasize, you play to the board, Magic's about card advantage, sometimes it's about life totals.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, from Jeremy's position, he's really stressed out if you knock him to 6.
Yeah, he's not feeling great about that. Storm Breath is a pretty hard card for his deck to answer. The shields are a little bit lower if he has hostilities his board away. But with him at 10, he knows that there's not really too many bad things that can happen. Doesn't get too bad. There's Crater's Claws. I think we're just going to see a dissolve here.
No reason to let this resolve.
Yep, there is dissolve. Little scry action here for Bylander. And he is working his way towards the semifinals here, as he will draw a card.
That was his fastest untap of the match so far.
I would say so.
He knows that he's got Robert on the ropes now.
Elevator goes up to 3 on Elspeth. There's a Temple. Take a look at the top card. That stays on top very quickly. Look like a Disdainful Stroke. He's got another Dissolve in hand. A Nullify as well. Here's a bunch of mana. This looks like it might be maybe another Crater's Claws, potentially a Genesis Hydra.
I think this is Hydra for 5.
There that is. So we spin the Hydra wheel. What do we find? Savage Knuckleblade is as good as it gets. And that one's not great in this situation. Thanks, Elspeth.
I still think we're going to see one of the counter spells used here on the Genesis Hydra.
Think so? Maybe a little Nullify action? Hey,
I don't know. It doesn't actually increase the clock, I guess. So,
Yeah.
Never mind.
We're also in the world that exists, right, where it doesn't really have to do all that much.
I mean, Robert's on no cards in hand.
Yeah.
And he still has Dissolve left over, even if he uses a Nullify here. So, I guess I would Nullify, but I don't think it matters too much.
The other thing, too, is giving this haste is very dangerous because he's going to go down to 6, which is actually a board that, he can kill the Elspeth now, I guess. Okay, he's just going to chump block. So going down to 6 is going to matter a ton. You know, if there's a backup Elspeth, he could just play an Elspeth and then wrath away the board, then attack for lethal.
Sure.
But as it stands, I could just see an attack here like this.
Just make 3 chump blockers. Nothing tramples. He has multiple counter spells. He's got it. He's got it covered.
Calderon going to go down to 2. There are 3 more blockers. And he does have Break in case of emergency and Fated Retribution. Radical Mystic is the top card. And that is going to do it. Jeremy Bylander with blue-white control will take down Robert Calderon 2-1. And for Jeremy, he is moving on with his control deck that we did not expect to see in this tournament. Going to the semis, either playing against Derek Thill or Donovan Schultz. He'll play against Greenwood Monsters or Mardu Midrange. Should be interesting.